Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about some new insights we've gotten into the class system. I know that as people have learned about the class system, there are those of you out there who have your doubts about certain specialists, maybe your favorite specialist in the game, the way that they're going to perform. Are they going to be underpowered? Are they going to be overpowered? We're going to get into that because DICE did release the first episode in a brand new podcast yesterday that was all about the class system, and they definitely had some interesting insights there. Before we begin though, feel free to subscribe if you do enjoy the Battlefield content, that way you won't miss another video. We're closing in on 40,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for your support. Today is also Tuesday, and you know what that means: new weekly missions on Battlefield 2042 as long as new portal mode, so let's quickly just go and run over those. So this is week 10 for season 3, and the first 3 here is to play a round of breakthrough or rush, get 15 kills, assists or revives, and then travel 2 kilometers in vehicles. The next round is then 8 objectives captured or neutralized, 900 damage inflicted to enemy vehicles, and 20 kills and assists with SMGs. Then round 3 we have 10 headshot kills and 12 kills in a round. And then finally for the bonus mission you've got 20 kills and revives, so overall a pretty damn easy week there. I think you'll agree you'll be able to bang all of those out within a couple of matches, I would expect. Definitely a lot easier than last week, which had that nasty one where you had to repair a vehicle a bunch. That was actually the one that took me the longest time, so quite relieved to not see that there at the moment. Okay, moving on to the portal mode. For the first half of the week here we have a community spotlight, and this game mode is called Gunfight Royale, and as you might imagine, it's kind of a battle royale inspired game mode. So it says be the last man standing in a series of free-for-all rounds with random loadouts. The first to reach 3 points wins. And this one is actually inspired and indeed created by Mancor and Dirty Breaks. So these guys, if you don't know who they are, they make a bunch of really interesting and cool portal modes. You can find them on the website, I will link it down below. I definitely recommend checking these guys out because all of the experiences that they have made and I have played have been pretty damn impressive. And then of course you've got Hardcore Rush. That really requires no more explanation, so if you're a hardcore player and you enjoy that kind of thing, then there you go, go nuts. Okay, so getting back to the podcast here, of course, episode 1 was all about the class system, and this was a pretty long podcast. It was 55 minutes, so, you know, I'm not going to go and cover everything that they talked about. Also, a lot of the stuff they mentioned is just them repeating themselves, things they've already said in dev notes or other blogs or patch notes in the past. They spent a lot of time going over how they chose the class system the way it is right now, how they came to have the weapon proficiencies, and that player feedback, they placed a large emphasis on that player feedback was a big part of that. They had multiple sessions with players where they would test out the class system, test out the weapon proficiencies, and then they would be iterated upon. Now, there were a few worries that I noticed though among you guys in the comments section, and also worries of my own. So in this podcast they've kind of alleviated some of those. So first of all, we're going to address Rao. I know a lot of people wanted Rao to be an engineer, and they think being able to hack and then use an AA missile, for example, just makes sense. And that is indeed a playstyle that a lot of players have adopted and enjoy using. But what they've done to compensate for this is they haven't given Rao an AA missile. He still will be a recon, and the reasoning they had behind that is that they want that synergy there between recon players and engineers. Right, that's kind of the whole point of having the class system there, and I do agree with that. But what they've done is they've changed his hack ability. So now instead of merely hacking a target and making it unable to be able to use its gadgets and weaponry, that hack will now also make that target lockable. So the way they said it, that's what the word they used in the podcast. They said it will be locked. I assume what they mean there is it's going to be sort of SOFLAM targeted. So if there is an engineer on the floor and you have an M5 launcher and a Rao somewhere on the battlefield hacks an enemy vehicle, you're going to also see that now highlighted in-game via most likely the same UI element that you get when somebody SOFLAMs a vehicle. So if you're in a vehicle, you're really going to have to watch out now if you get hacked, because not only will you not be able to flare or use any countermeasures or repairs or anything, but you're also going to be targetable not just by AA missiles, but by anybody using a javelin, which is one of the new gadgets, of course, coming in from Portal, and believe me, those are quite powerful, or of course the M5 launcher. Now, another big point of contention and controversy was the support class now getting the SMGs instead of the LMGs. So, of course, it's only a proficiency, they don't get the SMGs per se. Any class can use any weapon still, but they have given the SMG proficiency to the support class, and they've given an LMG proficiency to the engineer class. They went into a little bit of the reasoning behind this because in the past the support class has always been the LMG class. So the main reason here is basically just so that they will stay on the front lines. Of course, those assault players are going to be on the very front line, and the support players should be just behind them, being in range to revive them. And if you're using an LMG, you're probably not going to be in those sorts of ranges. So having SMGs as their proficiency kind of encourages those support players to be in and around their other supports and assault players, reviving, giving out ammo, and throwing out medkits. They also clarified on the SMG draw time. So what the proficiency actually does is increases the draw time of your SMG. I wasn't exactly sure whether this was, you know, your like ADSing time or what, but it turns out it's basically just the time it takes for you to switch from another weapon or a gadget to your SMG. And I think that has a really lot of cool synergy with the support class. So you can imagine, right, you throw down a medkit, you're going to be able to switch back to your SMG quicker, or you've just finished reviving somebody, boom, you can switch back to your primary faster than another class could. And it certainly feels that way. For example, if you play Falk, it feels like a lot of the time you're switching away from your primary, right? Pulling out your pistol to heal people or heal yourself, throwing down ammo boxes, reviving people. You're just constantly having to switch away from your primary, and then you always get caught out. So I think that proficiency is actually going to go quite a long way. Now, it's also worth mentioning here that the class equipment for the support class is going to be the Defibs. At the moment, all of the support classes in the game can revive people with Defibs, but they're not exactly a gadget that you equip. You just press the revive button over a dead ally, you pull out your Defibs and revive them. But now you're actually going to be able to equip those Defibs, charge them up, and use them to kill enemies as well, and zap people, and get those, you know, embarrassing Defib kills. So that's kind of cool. And then finally here, let's touch a little bit on the assault class, because they did mention, like I've also talked about in previous videos, that they are kind of going to be the selfish class. So you're going to get the med pen as the assault gadget. Then you're also going to be able to equip something like armor plates or C5 as your, you know, global gadget for the assault class. And then if you're playing McKay, you're going to have your grappling hook. If you're playing as Sundance, you're going to have your grenades, right? So overall, it sounded quite powerful, you know, getting to have a med pen, which, let's face it, most good players out there will run with at the moment anyway. That is now going to be like a universal piece of assault equipment. And then being able to have armor plates on top of that and your specialist gadget, that sounded a little bit too good, and it doesn't really have any synergy with the rest of the classes. And they did touch on this and say that, you know, the assault class is pretty much the selfish class, and they're just okay with that. You know, after all, these are the people who are on the front lines. They're trying to punch a hole in the enemy defenses and get on that flag, get some really nice flanks off, and that in and of itself is very beneficial for your team. They also said that with the med pens, obviously at the moment you get 3 charges when you equip the med pen. After the class changes on the assault class, you will only have a single charge, so you're not going to be able to spam it continuously. You will take damage, you will use your med pen to heal up, and then if you take damage again, you are going to have to find and seek out a support player who will be able to supply you with a medic box. And furthermore, you can actually resupply your med pens via the med crate. So it's going to be doubly important for you, kind of like playing BF5 with the attrition system a little bit, where you had to fall back and resupply your heal. Same kind of feeling here. You're going to have to fall back and find a friendly support player, and that's also going to be a very good reason for support players to run medkits and not always ammo boxes. Now, there's another massive change coming to the engineer class, which hadn't previously been detailed, but obviously the engineers are now going to be the only ones who have the 3 launchers, right? The Javelin, the M5, and the AA missile. Now, previously, every specialist in the game, every player in the game could have one of these launchers, and so they had to balance the launchers against vehicles with that in mind. You know, 64 players on the enemy team could all have launchers, so you can't make them too powerful. But now that they are restricted to just one of the 4 classes in the game, that has actually meant that DICE have buffed the M5 and the AA missiles most likely somewhat. They didn't go into specifics here, they just said that that has given them the opportunity to make the launchers more powerful against vehicles now. So that's something I've seen a lot of players asking for. Can we see the TV missile do more damage? Can we see the M5 do more damage? You know, why are things feeling so ineffective? And that has been part of the reason, because everybody could have one. So I really think that this class system is going to touch every single aspect of the game. It's not just going to, you know, turn infantry play on its head and reinvigorate the meta there, but it's also going to change vehicle play. You know, the way that you use a vehicle and the targets you need to watch out for is going to change drastically. You're going to take more damage from AA missiles and M5 missiles. The Javelin is going to be there, and that thing does an absolute ton of damage. So it's really going to be interesting to see, you know, how things change overall. DICE also did say that they are, of course, going to be keeping a close eye on everything, and if changes do need to be made, they will jump in there and do that. And one last thing, obviously, it's Tuesday today, and we still don't have a class system, so going by what I said in my last video, it looks like I was wrong. I honestly thought it was going to be this week because this is the last full week in January, but they did reiterate that the class system is coming later this month, so I would bet my bottom dollar it is going to be next Tuesday, the last day in January. Now, if you guys are interested in learning more about the class system and how things are going to work there, feel free to check out this video. Thank you guys for watching here today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.